Welcome to Getting Through What You Can't Get Over. Could you use some more hope? Could you stand to be inspired? Do you want some encouragement? Join us for this 4-part series. I'm your host, Anita Brooks, international speaker, inspirational life coach, and author. I'm Anita Brooks, and this is part 4 of Getting Through What You Can't Get Over. I know what it's like to feel as if God has maybe called you to do something, or you think maybe He's called you to do something, and then the bottom falls out. And you begin to question, why? Why is this happening? Or maybe it wasn't necessarily that you thought God had called you to it, but it just seemed like everything was going well. This is the way things are meant to be. And then boom, it blows up. And you don't understand. And you're left swirling in a pool of confusion and chaos. And you wonder, what do I do now? How in the world am I going to get through this? Well, that's what happened to me in 2009. I was early in my writing career, and you have to understand, for me, I had spent a lot of time believing that I was that person that God passed up when He was giving out talents. Now, I've had people say to me, "Oh, Anita, not you." I'm telling you, I did not believe that I had anything special built into me at all. But then God began to convict me, and He did it, again, from where He speaks, his platform, the Bible. And I kept hearing this message over and over about the parable of the talents in Matthew 14. And in there, the master gives one of his servants 5 talents. Now, in this biblical passage, in this parable, what it's describing is a form of money, but I think it's really fascinating that in our modern day translation, it's translated as the word talent. So this man is given 5 talents, another one is given 2 talents, and then the third is given 1 talent. And it says based on their abilities. Well, the master goes off on a long trip. He's gone for some time, and when he returns, the man with the 5 talents comes to him and he says, Master, I've invested your talents and I've earned 5 more. And the master says to him, "Well done, good and faithful servant. Come share in your master's happiness." The man with 2 talents runs up and he says, "Master, I've invested your talents and I've earned 2 more. Again, the master says, "Well done. Come share in my happiness." But then he goes to the man with 1 talent. And this man was afraid. And so he had buried that talent. And the master called him wicked and lazy. And he said this to him, "You should have at least invested with the bankers." I have to tell you, when God revealed to me that He had indeed given me a talent, and in my case it happened to be a talent for writing, at first I argued with Him. I debated. I didn't really believe that I could do anything special. But as we know with God, when we argue, He's going to win. And sure enough, finally, He proved to me that yes, I did have a talent. And then I knew I had buried it, and I was very convicted about that. But I also had questions. I said, "Lord, I don't have any of the tools or resources that say that I should be able to do this, that I should be able to succeed." And it was as if I could just hear Him in my spirit say, "Do you trust me or do you not?" And then I looked again at that one sentence where the master says, "You should have at least invested with the bankers." And I knew that God was speaking to me. So I took a piece of paper and I wrote on it, "Who are the bankers? Who do you want me to invest my talents with?" And I put that up on my refrigerator and I prayed over those questions for a couple of years. And then God began to just open one door. I had to partner with Him. I had to walk through. And then when I did, there would be another door that I would walk through until eventually God did give me success, and I've now published multiple books. Getting Through What You Can't Get Over is my 3rd book. And I can tell you it would not exist today if it were not for God convicting me and my not being willing to invest my talents with the bankers of his choosing. So that's a question that I have ongoing. Who are the bankers? Who do you want me to invest with? Now, I had been through all of that part of the process. I was just at the point where I was probably walking through my third or fourth door, and I was beginning to see that there was maybe success down the line. And one morning, I woke up at 4 o'clock. My left eye was on fire. It felt like it was just burning. And as I stumbled out of bed and I went and I looked in the mirror, I could see with my good eye that there was clear fluid coursing down my face. And I was like, oh my goodness, what is this? I thought maybe I had contracted pink eye. And a couple of days later, I woke up and it was in my other eye. Well, it was then I finally made an appointment to go see my eye doctor. I can tell you when you're sitting in an exam chair and all you can see is just very fuzzy colors, no depth, no perception, no detail. You can't make out faces. You have to feel your way. It's just light and color. And your eye doctor is looking at your eyes and he's making statements like this. Oh boy, I've never seen anything like that. That is not what you want to hear. And after a few minutes, he finally said to me, I'm going to have to go consult my colleague. And I'll never forget, I could tell that he made his way to the door and then he just stopped and he said to me, he said, you need to know this is very serious. I'm not sure if you're going to get your sight back. And he walked out the door. So here I was, sitting in this room by myself. The blinding white was just hurting my eyes even more. And I began to have a pity party. I began to ask God what was going on. Why was this happening? I didn't understand. If you called me to write, how am I supposed to write if I can't see? I need my eyes. And I didn't get any answers. Have you ever been in that place where you're crying out to God and it feels as if deafening silence is the only answer you get? That was the place I was in. A couple of days later, I came in and I saw his colleague when my eyes were not improving. And the colleague said to me, I'm not even sure who to refer you to. I want you to go home and we're going to put you on bed rest. And so I did as he said, and again, I was just crying and I was praying and I asked God, I said, why is this happening? I don't understand. Am I doing something wrong? If you'll just tell me what it is, I'll try to fix it, I promise. And this time, I did hear God say something to me, not a loud, audible voice, but just something in my spirit. And he asked me, he said, what is it that you have said is the motto verse that you've committed to, the verse that you live by? And I kind of was sniffling a little bit at this point, and I said, Job 13:15. And he said, what does Job 13:15 say? And I said, it says, even if you slay me, yet will I trust in you. And God said, then you trust me. At that moment, I didn't have any clue still if I would ever see again, clearly. I didn't know if I was going to be able to write again. But I knew that God was with me. I knew that no matter what, I was going to be okay. It was just a few days later when someone put me in touch with a specialist, and I went in and I spent half a day going through all kinds of crazy tests that I didn't even know it existed. And I finally sat down with the doctor. And I remember I said to him, I believe in God. Do you believe in God? And he said, well, yes, I do. And I said, do you believe in the power of prayer? And he goes, oh, most certainly. And I said, good. I said, would you mind if we just prayed about my eyes? And I could tell it kind of took him back for a minute, but he agreed. And when we were done, he began to look over the test results, and I could hear him flipping through the reports in the papers. And he was talking about things that didn't sound very good, frankly, amoebas and cornea transplants and all kinds of scary sounding technical terms. But then finally he said, you know, though, he goes, I have looked at the reports, let me look at your eyes. And he put the machine up, and he came in and he looked, and he goes, I know exactly what this is. And I just felt a flood of relief come over my body. And he said, you have a genetic eye disease. And that didn't sound very good. And I thought for a minute, well, am I going to go blind? I mean, what does that mean? What's this going to look like? And he said, you have something called map fingerprint dystrophy. And he said, it's as if there are little pinpoints all over your eyes, almost in the shape of a map. He said, but when you pull back a little bit, he said that shape looks exactly like a fingerprint. Now, I have to tell you, maybe this is just me, but all I could think of in that moment was God's fingerprints were on my eyes. And I knew that in this strange and crazy way, that once again, God was going to take what for me was a Jobed experience, a very traumatizing, a very scary, confusing situation. And he was going to do something so great and so good that I couldn't even imagine it as I sat in that chair that day. I knew that God's fingerprints were on me. Well, it took about 5 weeks before the skins of my corneas had finally grown back, because what had happened, my eyes had become so dry, I had literally blinked them off. So I had all of this time to just sit and be still and know that God was God. I had no choice. It was a forced situation. But even in those moments, God and I had such a rich conversation. And I learned that so often in our hurried, busied, frazzled 21st century lives, we miss the benefit and the beauty of slowing down to spend intimate time with God. The healing aspect of that is so incredibly powerful. I don't know why we run from it the way that we do. Just like when we're in need, why do so often we run from God instead of running up and scurrying into his lap? But that's what we humans do. And as God and I began to spend this intimate time together, he was teaching me things that I'm really blessed and honored to be able to share with you today. One of those things that he taught me that day came from the book of James, where he reminded me that in James 1, 2 through 4, he says, count it all joy when you meet trials of various kinds. For you know that the testing of your faith produces steadfastness. And let steadfastness have its full effect, that you may be perfect and complete and lacking nothing. You see, God knew that I was lacking something. And the adversity that I was going through was having its full effect so that he could make me steadfast and he could help me to persevere. Because as many of us know, as long as we live, we're usually entering an adversity, we're in the midst of an adversity, or we're coming out of an adversity. But the thing is, no matter where we are in that journey, God is with us. And God will do amazing things through that. Things that we can't comprehend while we're there. Things that, frankly, oftentimes we think, you know what, if this is what it takes, I don't want any part of it. But Daddy does know best. Another thing that he taught me during that time was Hebrews 11:1. I think it's fascinating that many times when you read the Bible and you look at different translations, and I love to do this, to just compare them and see the different word terms and word images that are there so that it enriches my learning and I just get a greater depth from those. But in this particular passage, the first two words are almost always the same. Hebrews 11:1 starts out by saying, now faith. And as I sat there in that quiet, intimate time, forced to be still, forced to acknowledge and know once again that God is God, He reminded me that I needed to exercise now faith in the present. Faith despite how I felt. Faith that was a decision and a choice to believe Him before the results could be seen. That was an amazing epiphany for me. And I can tell you that today, no matter what comes my way, I may still get scared. I may still be confused. I may still wonder why. But I am reminded to exercise now faith and to believe God, even when it seems like it's crazy, like there's no reason, when everything is senseless, to choose to believe Him anyway. And another thing that I learned from that period was the truth of Joel 2:25. Joel 2:25 tells us that He will restore the years that the locusts have eaten, the great locust and the small locust. Maybe you are sitting in a place right now where it feels as if you are just being attacked and every good thing in your life is being eaten up. It's being destroyed. How amazing to know that God not only can, but will restore the years the locusts have eaten. God's the creator of time. I know for me, when I'm under a deadline, sometimes I think there's no possible way I'm going to be able to get it done. The pressure is so intense. And then I'm reminded, God created time. And I call out to Him and I ask Him to create the time, to provide the time that I need to be able to complete the task at hand. He's never failed me yet. I've seen miracles come in forms that just boggle my mind. There's no way that I should have been able to accomplish something that I did because I dared to cry out to Him and to believe Him. In my book, Getting Through What You Can't Get Over, at the final chapter, I share a 12-step valley map. And in that valley map, I have some points that have really helped me to get through those things that I'm not going to get over, to reach that point where there is real purpose that comes from my pain, to live my life doing more, being more, and influencing more, because we're all made to make a difference. And today I want to share with you steps 10, 11, and 12 in that valley map. Number 10 is to make a decision to affect at least one person or situation in a positive way. Do this every day of your life. We are called to be joy-filled people. Joy is often something we choose for ourselves. It's that choice we make in believing God, in believing His promises, in exercising now faith, trusting He'll restore the years that the locusts have eaten, even when we're going through trying times. And when we make that decision to affect something or someone else in a positive way, it also takes that focus off of self and we become others-centered. And I can tell you from experience that when you do that, when you begin to want to instill hope, to encourage people, to inspire them, your own mood lifts. Your spirit is heightened. And you begin to get a sense that maybe you're more than a one-talent person. Maybe you're a two-talent person. Maybe you're a five-talent person. And you just didn't see it. Because sometimes those talents are so close to us that we think they're no big deal. We take them for granted. They're as close as the nose on our face. But when we begin to invest in other people, invest our talents in them, God can reveal those abilities that He has given us. The 11th step that I want to share with you is to every day make it a habit of saying yes to one thing and saying no to one thing. Do that with intentionality. When you determine that you are going to say yes to something that's healthy, that's good, that's positive, that feeds another person, you are going to begin to feel better about yourself because you're going to know that you're more aligned with God's will. We are supposed to be doers of His word and not just hearers only. But equally, we need to say no to some things. Because if we fill our lives with busyness, if we fill our lives with things that maybe we are not supposed to be doing, even though they're very good things, there's not enough room for us to invest our talents with the bankers of God's choosing. Who does He want you to invest your talents with today? If you need to say no to something so you can say yes to Him, you won't be sorry. I can assure you that is a choice that compounds interest. And the 12th in my map is this. Look in the mirror today and see the person that Jesus sees in you. See the person that has so much value that He was willing to give up everything just for you. That He would stretch His arms open wide and say, truly, I love you this much. God sees you. He loves what He sees. Just because you're going through a difficulty, just because you've been through a trying time in the past, just because you've been traumatized, that does not have to define who you are. Those things are just things that happen to us. But God is the one who should provide the definition of who you are. He made you a multifaceted, talented person with purpose, on purpose, to create a purpose. What is your purpose? What are those things that are so close to you that you think, it's not a big deal? Anyone can do that. I used to believe, honestly, that anyone could write. That wasn't anything special. That wasn't a talent. And I was wrong. Maybe for you, it's the talent of making other people feel appreciated, acknowledged, the power of a human smile. To say, I see you, and I appreciate what I see. To share the love of Jesus Christ in very practical ways. To offer random acts of kindness. Anonymous giving. You know, when my children were small, one of the best memories that all of us share about their Christmases was something that we did for other people. It had nothing to do with any gifts that we received. Every year we would make it a point to find out about a family who had a need. And we would go get a laundry basket and we would fill it up with all kinds of groceries and practical things. And then we would get gifts for each person in that family, something very special for them. We would rise very early in the morning. We would load up in our car and we would drive to wherever their home was. And we would leave the house around 4:30 in the morning so that we would arrive about 5. And we would tiptoe up the steps or onto their porch, and we would very quietly put those baskets by the front door. And then we would knock and run. And I remember how often, as we were driving away, the conversation, the excitement that would be in the voices of my children, as we would imagine what that family would experience as they found those gifts on their doorstep. We would always leave a card that let them know that that gift truly originated from God because He cared for them. He saw their needs and He filled it. What is it that you feel a nudge or a tug in your heart to do today for someone else? Maybe it's to pick up that phone and call someone. You've been putting that off. You don't know why you keep feeling the urge to call them, but God knows. Isaiah 46:10, He is the Ancient of Days and He knows the end from the beginning. You don't know what that other person may need, but you also don't know that maybe God doesn't want to use you to fill that need. Maybe He wants you to visit someone. Or maybe in this moment, He wants you to get down on your knees and to cry out to Him because it's been a really long time. And maybe you felt really far away from Him. But now you dare to believe that He might actually want to hear from you, that He might actually want some intimate time with you, that He might want you to be still and know that He is your God, He is your Father, He is your Daddy, and He gave up everything because He loves you that much. There are absolutely things that we will go through that we will never get over. But God can take the ashes of our lives and He can mold them into a crown of beauty to where even you, in whatever it is that you are experiencing in this moment, may be able to say, you know what? I thank God, because if I hadn't been through that, then this other beautiful thing could not have taken place. God wants to transform you into the person He meant for you to be. Look in the mirror, dare to see him or her, and know that you are loved. And then pass that love on as if you have never been hurt and as if you've never hurt Him. I'm Anita Brooks, inspirational life coach, international speaker, and author. I hope you've enjoyed this time based on my book, Getting Through What You Can't Get Over. I hope you found encouragement, inspiration, and hope. If you would like me to come speak to your group, you can reach me at my website or via email. Thank you, and God bless you.